everyone. I'm Jon Favreau. We are live at CrookedCon. So this is a panel about the story that Democrats choose to tell voters about what we believe, where we want to take the country, and how we'll get there. I'm biased as a former speechwriter, but I think figuring that out is one of the more important tasks for the party and one that is under-discussed. We talk a lot about issues, policy positions, slogans, specific messages. I think we don't talk enough about how they all fit together in a cohesive, persuasive narrative. And so I am very lucky to be joined by some of the most brilliant strategists and storytellers in our party to talk to me about this. My friends Jen Psaki of MS Now. I did it. I remember it.
It's not MS. It's fine. It can be either one. Right now.
It's just it rolled off. It was great.
Happy to be here.
Faiz Shakir of More Perfect Union. And veteran Democratic strategist Rebecca Katz. Lis Smith. And Adam Jentleson. All right, let's talk about the story coming out of Tuesday night. A good story, for once. So the rosiest take on the results is that whether you're Zoran Mamdani or Abigail Spanberger or anyone anywhere else, Democrats who won focused on affordability. Unlike Donald Trump, who campaigned on affordability and is now building himself a gold palace. And so if you're a candidate running in 2026, you focus almost exclusively on affordability with the message tailored to the voters you're running to represent in the place that you're running. Some will sound more like Mamdani, some will sound more like Mikey Sherrill or Abigail Spanberger, some will sound completely different, but that's okay because we're a Big Ten party, and as long as your campaign is focused on affordability, we're good. Is that story sufficient to help Democrats take back the House and potentially the Senate in 2026? Rebecca?
Well, I think a good message coming out of Tuesday is that a lot of different kind of Democrats won, and that's good, right? Like, it is good. I mean, we should be saluting all of our Democratic candidates up and down the ticket. We had a great night, and there's this feeling of wanting to divide us a little bit. Like, well, this is the way that you have to win, or this is the way. But if we're gonna be a party that wins big, we have to have a Big Ten. And we need candidates who can authentically speak to the constituencies they're running to represent. And voters can smell bullshit, right? And we have to know that when you're talking about it, you have to have first-person experience. You can't just say, like, now I'm gonna focus on costs. You have to, it has to be grounded in something that you know.
Liz?
Yeah. And I agree with Rebecca.
Isn't that so
and
nice?
You know what's crazy is I have worked against everyone on the stage in primaries in my life, except for Jen, because, you know, she has good taste. But, but, you know, 4 years ago, had we all been up here, we probably would have been, you know, getting a little saucy. I don't know, we'll see what happens here. But today, it really does feel more like we're starting to understand that we're all in this together. There's no one way to be a Democrat. For Democrats to become a majority party, let alone a durable majority party, we've got to let people run in a way that fits the communities they're trying to represent. So, for instance, Zoran Mamdani makes a lot of sense in New York City. Probably not going to win statewide in Virginia. Abigail Spanberger makes a lot of sense in Virginia. Probably not going to get through a Democratic primary in New York City. And you know what? That's okay. And I think that so much of the fight right now that we need to think about as a Democratic Party, and to your point about what more of the story is beyond affordability, is we've got to take on the status quo. And we've got to take on the establishment shit that is not helping our party. And you know, I think you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. But, and I can see a coalition growing of next generation Democrats, people maybe more in Rebecca's wing, some people more in my wing, getting together and saying, let's make life cheaper for people, and let's stop all the shit that isn't working, and let's fight the status quo that is very, very broken for most Americans.
Faiz, do you think Mamdani's message could win in places that aren't as blue?
Yeah, of course, and how you tailor it. The challenge that we're in, I'll try to introduce some degree of friction into this. Because
That's what I was hoping.
we all agree on a lot of things. What goal are we trying to solve for? I want us to win elections. Let me state that fully here. I want us to hold power. I want us to hold power to do things to address people's suffering in the world. And in order to do that, in a world of greater wealth and income inequality, we're swimming in a sea of corruption, the political economy is completely broken. You want people who come in with a mandate of, I am going to do something. Now, if I polled this audience and I said, in the first 100 days of the Mamdani administration, what do you suspect he will do? Most of you will be able to give me an answer. You know, you're gonna highlight, and I could say, freeze the, universal. Right, there you go, thank you. Proven point. Now, if I ask you, and again, I'm so excited that they won. Now, what are Governor Spanberger and Governor Sherrill gonna do in the first 100 days? They'll figure out, they'll be competent administrators, and I think will do things to improve people's lives. I don't quite yet know what they are. Maybe some of you could argue to me that you know better, and I'm not going to debate you and doubt you. What I'm going to debate you and doubt you on is that the mandate of this election didn't tell the people of New Jersey and Virginia what is next going to happen for their lives. And in the interest of trying to change the Democratic Party brand, I want people running with the sense that we're going to win this election, not on the backs of people hating Donald Trump and the corruption that he stands for. Yes, that, and when we get into office, there are 2, 3, 4 things that we are going to do to address affordability, and here's why, and here's how. And on that score, we got some work to do. That's how I answer the Mamdani question. More people thinking about their concrete authorities, matching those authorities with how I'm going to get affordability done, and telling voters that you can hold me accountable for this when you put me into office.
Don't we think Faiz should run for office? I've thought this
I
all
do,
the time.
yes.
And I am announcing.
Wearing the suit, too.
I moderated the DNC debate, and I was like, he should run for office. Okay, I just put him on the spot. Go ahead. This is your forum.
Well, can I mean, I will sort of agree, with the idea, maybe not giving you the friction you were seeking there, Faiz, but that's sort of how we roll. I think, but I think about when I worked in the Senate in 2010 for Harry Reid with Faiz, there were 60 Democratic senators in that chamber. And we had seats, Democrats held at least one seat in 36 states, right? Today we hold seats in 25. Just to, drive the point home, we had both seats in Arkansas, we had both seats in West Virginia, we had a seat in Louisiana, in Nebraska, in Indiana. We had seats everywhere. And what that allowed us to do was to pass a lot of stuff. That Congress in 2009, 2010, when Barack Obama was president, those first 2 years were the most productive Congress. We helped more people with concrete improvements in their lives than any Congress since the Great Society under President Obama's leadership. And you need to win big. Winning by 50, getting just 50 votes in the Senate is not enough because you might lose a Democrat here, you might lose a Democrat there, someone might have a health issue. You need to go big. And so we need to be able to win everywhere. And to do that, you have to think about what are policies that appeal to a broad swath of people. So in 2008, Barack Obama was against the Iraq War, and he wanted to bring universal health care, and he wanted to clean up the swamp in Washington, D.C., right? Those are 3 things that were incredibly impactful, that affected millions of lives, but that got him to a victory of 365 electoral votes, right? So Democrats need to win. We need to bring concrete improvements to people's lives, but we also need to win everywhere.
Jen, I want to ask about the governing aspect of this, because not like we're getting ahead of ourselves. It'd be nice if we had another big majority in Congress and in the presidency. But I do think one of the challenges we face, and you have faced this both when we were in the Obama White House and then when you were in the Biden White House, is you get into office, the president does focus on passing legislation ideally that is going to make life better for people, that is going to bring down costs, in our case, healthcare in 2009. Then, of course, 2010 comes around, and many of the Democrats got voted out who who voted for healthcare to improve people's lives. And the question is, you want to run on a message of affordability, you want to run on a message that you're going to improve people's lives, but then can you talk about the challenges of once you're in government and do that, communicating with people that you are actually doing stuff to improve their lives when you know that it has not fixed all the problems and that people are still wrestling with high costs, even though you passed universal health care, the stimulus, whatever it may be?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, one of the geniuses of the Mamdani campaign, and I would argue also Mikey Sherrill ran on putting in place an energy emergency. There were specific things in each of these races that I think people really bit into in the States, is that it was digestible and it wasn't an opportunity agenda. Because what the hell is an opportunity agenda, right? It needs to be things that people understand, that you don't need to read a 50-page booklet. Okay, I'm getting to your question. I think the thing about governing is that you run and you talk about a lot of things because you're in debates, because you're doing interviews, because you are having town hall meetings, and that's a really important part of the process. But when you get into the process of governing, you have to pick your priorities, and you have to pick usually one or two things to start with. It doesn't mean those are the only things that you can do, but so for Mayor-elect Mamdani, is he going to start with universal child care? I mean, what is the first thing? Because you want to have something you can say you've done. Now, with the Affordable Care Act, you and I lived through this, and I don't mean to bring back post-traumatic stress disorder for all of us, but, and we all lived through it actually in different ways. I think at the time, we still felt like, and to be fair, we didn't determine the messaging, I don't think. Where's Dan? Should we bring him out here?
Yeah, it's Dan's
I'm just
fault.
kidding. Dan is brilliant. But one of the things that was decided collectively by the team we were on is that we were going to talk about it as bending the cost curve. Does anybody here know what that means? Okay.
In the out years.
In the out years, sorry. There was like 1,000, you remember this.
Remember, yeah.
1,000 pages. Of course, I mean, it was a complicated bill, and we talked about bending the cost curve and how the bill was going to do that. That was a terrible message because nobody understood what it was. And the Affordable Care Act, which I think President Obama, who I understand was here last night, that's very cool. Good. When he finally started talking about it as individual incremental things, then it started to become more popular. And I think this is a lesson for how you talk about things on campaigns, but also how you talk about things when you're governing, which is not like, I'm gonna wow people with my opportunity agenda or my 1,000-page bill. You're like, I'm gonna wow people with I'm gonna cover people under the age of 25, or I'm gonna cover people with pre-existing conditions, and I'm gonna tell real people's stories about how it's impacting them and benefiting them. Would that have meant that we would have won in 2010, the midterms? I think I remember at a certain point we were getting so beaten I went home from the White House because it was like, tomorrow will be hard. Probably not, because there are cyclical things, but I do think that there are lessons about messaging that can be taken away from how we didn't do it effectively the first round.
But just to jump in there, one of the biggest problems we have with governing is weak Democrats. Right? We have a lot of people who are up there, they get power, and they don't do anything with their power. And I think one of the things we saw from Mayor-elect Mamdani on Tuesday night is he grabbed that microphone and he said, let me tell you what we're gonna do. I have 104,000 canvassers that we just went to elect me. Now we gotta get this done. And he used the power of the microphone to get people excited, and we're gonna go on to our next big challenge. And I think so many Democrats, when they have won, their first thing is going to be like, okay, how do we compromise, instead of saying, how do we get some big shit done? Because right now, we have a lot of stuff that we need, and it's about time that we get Democrats who are actually stand for something and then run and win, and then achieve it.
So let me ask, because I sort of worry about this heading into the midterms, because I think I've heard various people on this stage and everyone else say, Democrats we can't just run against Trump, we need an affirmative vision.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with that. Also, if we win the House and win the Senate, all the things that we promised the affirmative vision will not happen. if we take back Congress, because Donald Trump will still be president for 2 more years and would veto any legislation that we passed. And so I wonder how you guys think about the story of the party that we're telling heading into the midterms, where you do want to lay out an affirmative vision if you're running for Senate or running for House, but at the same time, you don't want to get into this trap where you overpromise things to voters that the Democrats will not be able to deliver on once they get into Congress.
Well, can I actually, this reminds me a lot of 2006, right? When Democrats, against the odds, they took back the House, and against the odds, they took back the Senate. So they had control of both chambers of Congress under President George W. Bush. That's actually not a bad situation, because the Republican is in power. They're the president. You can pass a lot of stuff with your Democratic majorities, send it over to the White House, and let the White House, the Republican president of the White House, block it, right? So the key thing is to get those majorities to stay on message, and then to start passing things and show people, like this is like show don't tell, show people what they could have if Democrats were in power. The last piece of the puzzle is we need to get this Republican out of the White House.
But this goes back to my my opening question, which was like the rosy scenario where it's the first week after the election, we're all feeling good, everyone's coming together, but there's a lot of like every Democrat can run their own race depending on where they are. But if in victory, when we're all in Congress, they're going to have to come together and figure out what legislation we're passing together as a party. And so there is going to have to be some kind of agreement, whether you ran in a red state and won, or whether you ran in a more progressive campaign in a deep blue state and won.
Right, and that's why cost makes a lot of sense as common ground. And Democrats don't have control of anything in Washington right now, but they're sure as hell winning a fight over healthcare costs. They're winning it because they picked a smart fight. They picked a fight.
Finally.
Yeah, finally, right? They picked a smart fight. They've been remarkably disciplined about it, and it's just one issue that everyone can understand. If we do not extend these subsidies, people's healthcare premiums will double. And so I think we just need to keep things simple. And I understand overpromising. People are very skeptical of politicians, but I think more than anything, what voters want right now to hear from Democrats is that they understand, that they feel their pain, that they understand the most existential issue in their life is affording to live every day. And in 2024, a lot of voters did not hear that message from us. We were going out there saying, Bidenomics, everything with the economy is so great that we're gonna slap our White House name on it. And a lot of voters were hearing us talk about abortion, about democracy, about climate as these existential issues, when the thing that keeps them up at night is whether they can pay their credit card bills, pay their mortgage, afford their child's childcare. And I think until we meet voters where they are on that, and that's the most important thing we can do, I am sort of less concerned about overpromising. I just want to see more Democrats going out and meeting voters where they are on those critical issues.
Faz?
In 2005, led into 2006, Speaker Pelosi, she's not Speaker Pelosi, Harry Reid and Nancy Pelosi, respective leaders of the House and the Senate, decided that while George W. Bush was privatizing Social Security, that they were not just going to go into the next election cycle, this 2006 election cycle, with George Bush as bad. So they came together and they said, hey, 6 for 06. We're going to come up with 6 specific agenda items. And on that list, and I urge you guys to go back and look at it, one of those said, we will pass an Affordable Health Care Act. Now, to John's point, it actually didn't end up passing in 2006. You know what it did pass? It led to a 2008 election. And the framework of what those candidates campaigned on came out of 6 for 06. I'll tell you another story. In that number 6 items was raise the minimum wage. To raise the minimum wage from $5.15 an hour higher. They come into Congress, Speaker Pelosi, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. They get a minimum wage increase, demand it of Bush. He agrees and puts it in, changes it from $5.15 an hour to $7.25 an hour. My friends, that is the last time we ever raised the minimum wage. My point to John here and all of us is that having the demands meant something for changing people's lives. And then the next question that John was asking is, well, now you're governing, how do people know about it? And I want to credit, all the people on stage, but particularly Crooked, for building a media empire. Because part of the problem, and I'm trying to do it ourselves, is you get into power and you have to tell stories about what the hell are we doing. And part of the reason why Trump he isn't at 5% as he should be, but he's probably at something where 40, because he's got a right-wing media ecosystem that is telling them every single day that our hero is doing all these amazing things while the rest of the majority of this country realizes what the hell is going on. My point being that we need this kind of ecosystem such that when we're governing, all of us who are doing media, John, myself, others, we have to be talking to the people in power, brought along in the journeys of what are you trying to do, why are you trying to do it, and help them animate the stories about their accomplishments.
Can I add one more '06
Yeah.
parallel? We're like all going to get out our canes and wheelchairs. Talk about the 2006 cycle. I was at the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee that cycle.
I was Jen's volunteer at the end.
Well, thank you. The other reason, and this is tied to today, the other reason Democrats won back the House in '06 is because of the culture of corruption of Republicans.
I was just gonna go
And
there.
that's important because we used to have a crony of the week. We would put out a crony of the week. Don Sherwood, he was quite a crony. Anyway, my point about this is that it's important to tie your proactive agenda, what you're going to do. You're going to fight for working people. You're going to fight for childcare. You're going to fight for cheaper transportation. You're going to fight for, against energy prices going up with what the other guy or gal is not doing, because they don't care about you. They care about themselves. They care about putting money in their pockets and money in billionaires' pockets as well. There's so much culture of corruption stuff right now with the Trump administration and the people around him. It is about having a proactive agenda, and I think this is something that Democrats should have learned the lesson from the last couple cycles about, but it's also about tying it to why you're a better choice and why your candidacy is a better choice than the other person and who they do not care about, which is working people. And that is very similar to '06.
And just going back there, we have to be able to name an enemy, right? Like they're coming at us.
Need a crony.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things
Lots of them.
Senator Gallego was saying was about how, as we're dealing with healthcare costs going up, and that's what, why we're fighting for premiums to not explode, everything's happening with food stamps. And what they're doing is they're pitting the middle class against the working class, and they're getting everyone mad at each other when you still have the bosses taking, millions and millions of dollars. And I think we have to clearly communicate those kind of messages and show who the enemy is, and it's not the working people. We have to show that we're fighting for the working people. And Democrats have not, we're getting better at it, but I think last cycle, a lot of Democrats didn't show that, and that's why we lost.
And, right now, for instance, we get a great example. I'm sure you all saw the chaos on the news about what's going on at the airports with all the canceled flights. I think 10% of all commercial flights today canceled. Meanwhile, you know what they're not canceling? Private jet flights. Yeah. And that shows exactly where the priorities are. And I think there's some very low-hanging fruit for us in 2026, which is something like the Stock Act, right? And frankly, this is an issue where not everyone in the Democratic Party's hands are clean.
A free policy idea: tax private jet travel, tax yachts, tax.
That's good.
And tax the rich.
Here we go.
Yes.
Like that. This episode is brought to you by MS Now. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. These words are more than just the opening of the Constitution. They're a reminder of who this country belongs to and what we can be at our best. They're also the cornerstone of MS Now. Whether it's breaking news, exclusive reporting, election coverage, or in-depth analysis, MS Now keeps the people at the heart of everything they do. Home to the Rachel Maddow Show, Morning Joe, The Briefing with Jen Psaki, and more voices you know and trust. MS Now is your source for news, opinion, and the world. Their name is new, but you'll find the same commitment to justice, progress, and the truth you've relied on for decades. They'll continue to cover the day's news, ask the tough questions, and explain how it impacts you. Same mission, new name, MS Now. Learn more at ms.now. This episode is brought to you by Bombas. This time of year, it's sensory overload everywhere. But one feeling we're still chasing? That's right, it's cozy. And Bombas has the socks, slippers, and basically everything to get you there. There's something wildly therapeutic about fresh socks, and the sock scientists at Bombas have found a way to channel that energy into everything, from slippers with sink-in cushioning to the perfect fitting ankle sock. And that feeling doesn't stop after one wear, it keeps going. They've got answers for all your gifting questions, too. Like, what do I get my son's new marathon training girlfriend? Obviously, Bombas running socks have sweat wicking and impact cushioning.
I just got new Bombas. I got the no-show Bombas because I had actually I've said virtually all my socks are Bombas, and that is true. I had some non-Bombas no-show socks. Guess what? Worn right through them things. Replaced them all with beautiful, well-made Bombas.
I have Bombas socks, but I need some no-shows.
Ah,
Wow, I'm going to get on that.
some millennial no-show Bombas.
They got new shapes, new styles, fluffy things, suede things, little something for every foot. And if there's one thing Bombas knows, it's feet.
They're real freaks for the feet. Real Quentin Tarantino's over there at Bombas HQ.
And we haven't even gotten to the best part yet. For every pair of Bombas you purchase, Bombas donates one on your behalf to someone facing homelessness. So anytime you get something cozy, someone else does too. Head over to bombas.com/crooked and use code crooked for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/crooked, code crooked at checkout. This episode is brought to you by LANDMAN on Paramount Plus. Now streaming on Paramount Plus, it's the return of LANDMAN, TV's biggest phenomenon. From Taylor Sheridan, co-creator of Yellowstone, Academy Award winner Billy Bob Thornton is back as Tommy Norris and managing higher stakes than ever before, featuring an all-star cast, including Academy Award nominees Demi Moore, Andy Garcia, and Sam Elliott. In the wake of his former boss's passing, tensions come to a head as Tommy and Demi Moore's Cammy Miller struggle to maintain control of MTEX Oil. And with his father, played by Sam Elliott, coming back into his life, Tommy must juggle both his roles as an oil man and a family man as pressure builds and his worlds collide. Don't miss the hit series everyone's talking about. LANDMAN, new season now streaming only on Paramount Plus. So the party can't just develop the message and execute on a message in a vacuum. The Republican Party gets a say, Donald Trump gets a say in what is covered and what we talk about and what the national debate is. They clearly are not going to want to talk about affordability. They have to say that now, obviously.
Did you see Trump called it the affordability?
The affordability. And he said, I don't want to hear about the affordability anymore, which kind of signals to you like where this is going. And so, as they usually do, they will want to turn the debate next year towards the issue terrain that they believe is more favorable to them. Crime, immigration, whatever the culture war of the moment is. It changes every year. And now they can also back up that talk with real action, militarized cities, ICE raids, trampling on people's constitutional rights. I very much get that voters, most voters, especially voters who haven't had their rights taken away or their freedoms trampled on, do not care as much about these issues as they do about the cost of living. And yet, I wonder if it is practical or realistic for Democrats to think that we can just run in 2026 on affordability and cost of living and not talk about what is happening all around us.
You know what voters hate? Chaos. They don't like chaos. Like they want things normal and good. So I think it's a little bit of both. You know, I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's not one thing, and there's not like one magic bullet, but you have to show that I always say that people take from the Bill Clinton years, triangulation, and all the like centrist stuff when really they should have been taking like, I feel your pain. We kind of missed that spot. So I do think we have to have some empathy, we have to connect with voters, and then we have to show them that we're gonna fight for something and we're gonna protect them.
And it's defense and offense, right? I mean, in any strategy, you have your defense and you have your offense. And I think Democrats learned a really good lesson on immigration the last 6 months or so, where there were some folks saying, don't talk about this issue when Trump was, sending masked men on the street to grab people and kidnap them. And, and people said, this is not a favorable issue for Democrats, so don't talk about it at all. But it was an issue that was in the news all the time, and you had to talk about it. And so, but what Democrats did was they talked about it in a smart way. To Rebecca's point about voters not liking chaos, they said this is about law and order. These are violations of law and order, and they found a message that resonated broadly. And they brought Trump's numbers on immigration down, right? They showed that Democrats can win even on these issues that don't start out as favorable to them. So then, you do that, you have your sort of defensive play, then you pivot to your offense. But we don't have to abandon these issues that don't start out as good issues for us. Democrats can lean into those and they can win on them too.
But I absolutely think Democrats can win the immigration argument. And I say this, I worked on Tom Suozzi's special election in 2024, and it was staked on the issue of immigration. People thought he was dead in the water because it was such a top issue. And what he did is this. And how Democrats are going to be able to win this issue means you can't just decry the lawless ICE raids. You got to start by just saying something common sense. We need a secure border. We are a sovereign nation, and that is part of being a sovereign nation. And because most voters, even as they're souring on Trump, they are not going to listen to the other stuff we have to say on immigration until we lead with something common sense like that. Now, I think on immigration, we can also go on the offense, and we've started to see some people, especially mayors, doing this effectively by saying that what these ICE raids do, they don't make us safer, they actually make us all less safe. Why? Because immigrant communities, if they're being raided, they're not going to go and want to work with law enforcement. They're not going to report crimes to the police. They're not going to testify against criminals in court. And that makes us all less safe. And I think we've got to be comfortable feeling like we can go on offense and take back the public safety conversation from the Republicans.
Yeah, this is something that I feel like the party has to figure out, especially as we head into national elections in 2026 and especially 2028, which is like, what is the story for the party on immigration? Like, what do we stand for? And there has been a couple choices, and I'm using immigration as an example, but I think it's probably the most salient one right now because of what we're living through. There's a couple choices, which is we either moderate on the issue to take it off the table, acknowledge that we need a secure border, and then that's it. We don't talk about it at all and just try to like economic populism, costs, affordability, and try to like bring the debate that way. Or we, and I think we did this in 2019 and 2020, especially during the last round of presidential primary debates in 2020, we sort of take the backlash against Trump's immigration policy as permission to go further left on immigration.
I mean, I was in Arizona last cycle, and one of the biggest challenges we saw was that voters didn't believe Democrats anymore, because every cycle Democrats said we're for comprehensive immigration reform, and every cycle we're like, this is why it didn't happen. And at a certain point, we were just promising and promising, and they just didn't give Democrats any credit. So we just had to start with, okay, first we need a secure border, and then we can talk about how to, pathway for dreamers and all the things, but it was tricky. Like, the Biden administration did not do a good job on immigration, and it was felt all the way down, and we have to be smarter going forward.
Yeah, that and there was an actual migrant crisis, that there was a policy failure. It was a struggle that a lot of towns and communities had to deal with. And I would go upstream on this question. It's not just immigration policy. It's a matter of, are Democrats comfortable being enforcers? Enforcers. And when you own executive power and authority, you own the police department too. You own the military as well. And some of the challenges, I think, of the Democrats are they're scared of the people who hold the guns, or they don't want to wield power and authority and give them direction. Because the problem is on the other side, they give them the direction. Yeah, go round everybody up, build this damn wall, go, raid Los Angeles. We have to have a vision of enforcement that's not just law enforcement, by the way, government enforcement. Or would we be seen as a side that kills a government program that isn't working? And too often, would we fire somebody? Would we fire somebody? These were honest and legitimate critiques of Biden. That you didn't fire anybody. You don't hold government agencies accountable when they do bad things. So that you could empathize, and hopefully should empathize with some of this most Musk Doge thing. Maybe they'll come in and get this squared away. No, they did not. Fast flash forward. But there's a desire for show me Democrats who are comfortable wielding power with authority, understanding enforcement is part of the job. One of the reasons why I think I love, where's Lena? I don't know if Lena Khan is still here, but she owned that in the economic realm, we're enforcers. We can bring lawsuits. We use the government sticks to do and accomplish things with friction, and own that I am not afraid of that friction. I have a vision of using enforcement to do good for America. That's what they expect of us, the greater good for the greater number.
I would just add that if you look back onto, we can give him a clap. I didn't mean to cut off the clap. If you look back at Tuesday, one of the reasons I think Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger won in those states is because they won partially on their biographies, which were national security, which were strong. I live in Virginia. There were so many ads run. My son is 7, and he was deeply engaged in what the outcome of the Attorney General's race was going to be because it was the ads were so constant. And I think sometimes Democrats, as a party, I don't even know who I'm referring to, run away from that as an important part of a background. I mean, Abigail Spanberger ran with people from law enforcement in her ads. That was very powerful. That worked in Virginia. I'd also say, I know you're deeper in polling, so you can check me here. Trump has lost support. He's lost ground in polling on things like deportations, right? And illegal actions and overreach. There's different ways it's measured. I think he's still near 50%, if not, I don't know where he is, but right near 50% on securing the border or something like that. So this point about what you say first, Democrats need to be proud of being strong on securing the border, on being a party that keeps communities safe. ICE raids don't keep communities safe. Neither does National Guard, who are not trained to be in communities. That does not keep communities safe. You know what else? It hurts the National Guard. These are people who signed up to serve their country, and they're being sent into communities to do jobs that they shouldn't be doing. I'm saying all this because I think sometimes there's a shying away from a national security or a security background as being valuable or important, and it is important, and I think it is a way to combat some of this.
That's right. People want to be...
Not for it, and we're debating here. Good.
You're right. They want to be safe. They want a secure border. That's things that they sort of agree with both parties on. Then there are things they agree with us on when it comes to immigration. They believe we're a nation of immigrants.
Yeah.
They believe in a path to citizenship.
Yep.
They believe in treating people with decency and respect, and even when there's enforcement that has to happen, that it be done in an orderly way and not grabbing people off the street. But in order to get people for the parts of immigration policy where people agree with us to break through, we do have to talk about a secure border. And once we do that, then we can open that conversation and say, we believe in fairness, we believe in a nation of immigrants, and we believe in treating people with
morality and humanity, which is an important part of it too. Can I just add one thing that I feel like, because we've given people lots of assignments, I feel like we could take things off their plates, because this just reminds me of, I am out of the business of working in campaigns unless Faiz runs, and then maybe he'll want me, maybe he won't. I'm just kidding. But I feel like there's no reason people need to fill out questionnaires. Questionnaires are like the devil, and I'm sorry for people who work for groups, but I just think that they are boxing candidates into things that are unnecessary. Everyone's not going to agree with me. We can debate this question. The other thing I would say is, spending time with editorial boards of national newspapers is not a good use of time. Spending days or weeks prepping for debates does not feel to me like a good use of time. You guys can all disagree with me, and maybe some.
I was going to go into the questionnaire.
So I'm saying all these things because I think we're talking a lot about what people need to do, and I think the way that politics has evolved and running for office has evolved means if there are talking points coming from a national organization, rip them up, burn them in your files. There are some things that I think candidates can take off their list, is my point, and the immigration conversation.
I support a questionnaire. The questionnaire should be, can you beat the Republicans?
Right. And can I just say one thing, right? Is when Jen's, to put it more in layman's terms, right?
Sure.
When you're talking about questionnaires, think of the ad that got the most attention from 2024. Kamala's for they, them, Donald Trump is for you, for me, whatever it was, for us, yes. You know where that ad came from? It came from an ACLU questionnaire where all the candidates were asked, do you support gender reassignment surgeries for, I think, undocumented immigrants in detention or people in prison?
It was all.
And can you tell me, can anyone guess how many times when I was working for Mayor Pete, he was asked about that on the campaign trail? 0. So why the heck, and maybe you could answer this, because you were at the ACLU, why did the ACLU ask candidates to take positions on issues that literally no voter would have even come up with and cooked up in their mind?
I was there, so I'll answer that. That's not too hard. So, the ACLU's job is to advocate for civil rights and civil liberties in America. They bring lawsuits on behalf of people who face serious issues. Their job is to educate politicians. I worked for them prior to this, but I certainly appreciate the notions. And then we get questionnaires like Jen said, you stand on your own 2 feet as a politician. You tear that up, you not respond to it. But if I get a questionnaire from Bernie from a Medicare for All organization, I'm responding to it. I'm letting you know this is something I care deeply about. I want to let you know. Also, I solicit knowledge. I solicit information. I'm not just running to defeat the Republican. Sure, I'm also trying to learn something about the economy. I'm trying to learn something about this nation. I want to represent people's pain and suffering. Right now, one of my challenges with our current modern Democratic Party is it is not sufficiently grassroots enough. The inputs into our party are not coming enough from regular people. This is the role that I wanted from the Democratic National Committee. I want it from all of us, to feel like we are connected to the people who are suffering. Now, if you're running for office, you want to hear the pain, right? You want it to come up to you. It is your job to stand on your own 2 feet and say, that's not what I believe. So if ACLU says, oh, that you should say this, I say, with all due respect, no, I disagree with you. Thank you for your position. I put more of the onus on a Kamala Harris than I do ACLU making an advocacy position that they believe in.
100%. Blaming the groups is a cop-out. Like, if we're gonna win, we want people to feel engaged. And right now, there's lots of different kinds of groups. They stand for lots of different things. It's important. You don't have to say yes to everything, but you should show that you can open your ears and listen and be curious about other viewpoints. And what we're doing is we're taking a lot of cheap shots, and we're not paying attention to what voters want and what they need to win. And that will include all of us. And when we say your views don't matter and your views don't matter, we're turning off voters. And I think what you saw it on Tuesday, is we need to bring more people in. We need to make more people feel like they're a part of this.
So Adam,
I don't think it's
I want to
cutting
ask
off
you
anybody's
this.
view.
Yeah. So it's one thing, if you groups want to send questionnaires, and I agree actually that Democrats should take more agency and have the stones to say what they believe and not try to cater to the groups. But it's one thing to ask the question. It's another because then in a Democratic primary, the groups will spend millions and millions of dollars beating up the people who don't take the positions that they want them to take. So it's not this benign, oh, we're going to ask you your views, and then you we'll do us. Like they come after you hard, and in a Democratic primary, that really matters. And I think over the last 10 years or so.
I mean, the biggest groups that went after Democrats were AIPAC and crypto.
Well,
It's not the lefties. They don't have money.
2020.
A group is a group.
But that's not. Well, hold on a second. In 2020, the ACLU had a lot of money, and they spent a shit ton against Democrats who didn't agree with them on the questionnaires. They planted people at town halls to ask the questions in the most provocative way possible. And I think what happened there is that we lost sight of the fact that vulnerable communities suffer when Republicans win elections. Period. Right? And every Democrat on the 2020 debate stage would have been better for trans people, for every vulnerable community in America if they had won, right? And we collectively need to pull back a little bit and keep that big picture in mind. When Republicans win, vulnerable people suffer.
This episode is brought to you by PDS Debt. Debt from credit cards isn't an accident. It's a system built to keep Americans down. The banks profit, the creditors win, and families lose. Every call, every fee, every high-interest trap is another reminder the game is rigged. But there's another side to the story. PDS Debt has already helped hundreds of thousands fight back, cutting debt, ending the calls, and putting money back where it belongs, in Americans' pockets, not the banks. Whether you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, or medical bills, PDS Debt has custom options to help you get out of debt. They go beyond the numbers to understand your unique financial situation and craft a personalized plan designed just for you. There's no minimum credit score required. They're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs, in your pocket. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, boasts thousands of 5-star reviews on Google, and holds a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. Why? Because PDS has helped hundreds of thousands of people get out of debt. PDS has helped just so many people climb out of debt. And so if you're looking to ease some of your financial burden, give PDS Debt a try, because it can help you get out of debt. It's your money. It's your future. Don't let the system decide for you. You're 30 seconds away from being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pdsdebt.com/crooked. That's pdsdebt.com/crooked. pdsdebt.com/crooked.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. At Walmart, more than 75% of managers began as hourly associates. Walmart's $1 billion investment in career-driven training programs gives associates access to the tools and support they need to grow. Whether you're new to the workforce or ready for your next step, Walmart offers real opportunities, with or without a degree. With great benefits and room to advance, it's more than just a job. Learn more at walmart.com/spark. That's walmart.com/spark.
I do want to say, because I'm thinking about the 2028 primary here, right, and how this is going to play out. And I think everyone on the stage, sort of like, various ideological corners of the parties, and it seems like there is agreement that if a group pushes you to take a position as a politician, stand on your own 2 feet, say no. But the way this comes up in a debate is the reason that everyone, except Michael Bennet, raised their hand on, do you want to decriminalize border crossings, is because Julian Castro proposed decriminalizing border crossings. And so what happens is it's not just the groups, and it's not just the groups spending money, and it's not the questionnaires, it's the candidates who then decide in a primary, this is how we have to differentiate ourselves from each other. And you can imagine, as we head into 2028, there will be a candidate or two who says, yes, ICE has been out of control and maybe we need a secure border, but we should abolish ICE. And I think we all know, we've all seen the polling, and we know that that is wildly unpopular, even though ICE is very unpopular right now, more so than it's been in a long, long time. But we know that people want immigration enforcement. This is only to say that, I do wonder as we head into 2028 if do you guys think that we have learned the lessons of the 2020 primary? Or do you think that
I think we need to abolish the word abolish, because everything after it, people are very against.
Yeah, look, maybe this is a naive thing to say, but I feel like part of what we don't see people who may aspire to run for president do is sit down with their advisors and actually decide what they think and what they believe. And if somebody actually believes that they want to limit ICE or get rid of ICE or reduce the funding for ICE, and all of those things are quite reasonable, frankly, they just got a huge amount of funding that's unnecessary, then they should talk about that with their advisors or with themselves or with their family or whomever, and then stand by it. And I don't think that happens enough. I think people rest on the laurels of their personal stories, of their great charisma, of their ability to win in states, and then they don't talk about the tough issues and the tricky questions they're going to get asked about when they get on the debate stage. So it's like, what do you believe? Start from there. Don't look at the polling. Maybe that's naive, but that's, I guess, where I would start from now.
Not just the debate stage, the attack ads. You have to know what you stand for or why you're running. I mean, I'm so glad that Governor Cheryl ran, but the attack ads against her were really brutal. And it was just again and again asking, why are you doing this? Why are you running? And I think we need to show that we're running for a reason. And we have to have thoughtful candidates who actually, know what they stand for.
Well, I would say, but let's be fair to Mikey. I mean, she won by 13.6 percentage points. It was pretty clear to voters what she was running on, which was, and I disagree with you on that one, Faiz, it was affordability. And it was the utility costs there are skyrocketing in New Jersey. And she said, day one, I will declare a state of emergency on electricity costs. And we're going to see electricity costs keep going up everywhere because of all this AI stuff, data centers, everything. And we're going to have to figure out how to come back with that. But I think it's important to say with Mikey, she had a clear message. That ad was tough, but it's not like the rest of the campaign she wasn't able to articulate what she stood for.
Right. So to Rebecca's point and Jen's point about just sitting down and thinking what you believe and what you believe about the country, where you want to take the country. So 1992, Bill Clinton wins by focusing on the economy, but he also makes community and responsibility central to his message. 2008, Barack Obama wins, focusing on the economy. He also makes changing and reforming politics as usual central to his message. Joe Biden focuses on the economy in 2020, also talks about democracy, fight for the soul of the nation. The next crop of 2028 candidates, what do you think, after a decade of dealing with Donald Trump and the damage he's done to this country, in addition to economic cost of living concerns, what are the other sort of big picture affirmative vision kind of stuff that you'd want to hear from other topics and other areas that you'd want to hear from Democrats?
I'd like to see a Democrat say, look, in America collectively, we believe that if you work hard and play by the rules, you should not fall into poverty. You shouldn't go hungry. You should have everything you need to make ends meet. And let's think about what we need to do to make that happen. You know, that's something that brings us all together as Democrats. It's a core value for us as a country. We have a big shift coming in our economy with AI, where there are going to be shocks that are economic, there are going to be shocks that are social, there are going to be a lot of people out of work with a lot of time on their hands. What can we do collectively to make sure that that time is put to productive ends and that people don't fall into poverty? But I think we've lost sight of big causes like that, of ending poverty in the richest nation in the world. That's going to take a lot of ideas from all factions of the party, but I'd like to see somebody put forward a big idea like that and make it happen.
I think one of the interesting things, given how fucked up everything is right now, is that I don't think people running, including people running in 2028, have an obligation to defend. They need to defend rule of law, I would like to see, right? They need to defend people's rights, but I don't think they need to defend the existing institutions exactly as they exist. And so I think it's a moment where having big, bold ideas is important, and they can take many forms. The other piece, which may sound contradictory, but I think is important, is what Trump has left us, is going to leave us with, may he leave the White House, is a completely chaotic and destroyed government system that isn't doing necessarily what it's supposed to do for people. So there's an element of like bold competence. I don't know what the exact thing is, but that I think I would like to see. But, and maybe this is more of a 2026 thing, which is kind of, there's no, institutions are not popular, the party is not popular. So to me, some of what I'd like to see from candidates is free themselves from feeling like they're obligated to defend everybody in power and everybody who has a position of power in every institution out there, even if they're defending values.
Fast?
Maybe I will surprise you with a non-policy answer a little bit on this, which is, I'll tell you just my personal reflection on where I feel we're at, which is society around us is in a period in this greatest country on earth in cultural decay. Cultural decay because we see so much selfishness and greed and exploitation in every damn corner of this economy and in politics. And what it does for us and our children makes us feel we are not connected to one another. No sense that we are in an experiment together, that we're humans, we give a damn about each other. I care about your life, you care about my life. No, only get rich off the back of somebody else. Only get power over pushing somebody else down. What we got to think about is something that addresses the sense that as AI comes, there's a growing wealth and income inequality gap. There's also essentially a huge power gap, and the people who are being left behind are saying, who cares about me? Who thinks about me? And a Democrat who comes in saying, I have a vision of a couple of things, a sense of calling you into service. That government used to do this thing. We urge people to sign up for the military. We urge them to climate corps. We give you mission and purpose that is for the greater good. Give you jobs and opportunities that don't just mean you have to go work at Google or Amazon and toil away at Uber. I'm going to give you a purposeful mission to save our society and save our humanity together. And it's the government's job to give you a sense of that and provide opportunities. And alongside of that is to say, we got different ownership in the society. Right now, the ownership is all from the elites. In order to have ownership, different ownership design, workers on boards, co-ops, tenant unions. We got to rethink the model. We need democracy in an economic sense. We got authoritarians who rule in the economy. We got authoritarians who rule in politics. We're going to bring that power down, and people are going to have it in our economy. And that's what Zoran is suggesting too, that we're going to use our power and we're going to have it reside with us. That's a vision I think people would get behind.
And
Amen.
great.
So,
And I was about to say, I think I'm going to surprise people more by saying, I agree with Faiz.
Love it.
And I actually think that what Jen said and Adam said fits very neatly in with what Faiz said. Part of the reason why we see this cultural decay is people do not feel in control of their economic destiny anymore. Part of the reason why we see this cultural decay is we see this leader in the White House modeling the worst possible human and moral behavior. And so we're going to need to fix our government, we're going to need to fix our economy, and we, I think, really need to tap into that spiritual longing, I think, that a lot of Americans have for good moral leadership again and a sense of community and belonging.
But we're going to need candidates who are ready to get to work, right? And I think when you're looking at the candidates who are up right now, you have to be able to pick some fighters. You know, like there's going to be some tough primaries out there, and I think we need to know like who's going to go to Washington next cycle and be able to just fight for our rights. And because if they don't, we're fucked.
So I want to get back to the fighter thing, but first, like, Faiz offered a vision. That is has anyone, and it was grounded in the economy and what we've been talking about, but it was beyond that. I mean, Liz, you mentioned like there's a spiritual longing, there's a cultural decay that Faiz was talking about. Have you guys heard any potential 2028ers put everything together like that yet? I'm just wondering.
I mean, everyone pretends like no one's running, right? They
Right,
all
well-
pretend like they're not running.
We don't even have to name names. I'm wondering if you guys have heard this.
I have not seen a kind of a total layout of it. And I think, though...
So now Faiz has to run.
So fast.
Sorry, I just had to jump in.
What did this panel turn into?
I've been like waiting for a candidate to sort of put all that together, because I do think that we get into this like, all right, polls are saying affordability now, great, we're going out there, we're talking about affordability, we're talking about costs, we know it works. We have immigration, we know how to deal with that, secure border, but also we don't like ICE. We check off all the boxes, and we're sort of missing the fact that like we have now been through hell for the last 10 years. With Donald Trump, a lot is broken. A lot of people are broken. We've been through a pandemic. We don't talk about the pandemic. We still all have like PTSD from that and what it's done to people. And I think to lead us out of that, you need someone who is not just going to have like a great agenda, a great plan, a lot of promises, going to go get stuff done, but is someone who can try to start healing the country in a way.
One of the things, and as I was listening to Faiz, I was like, his answer is so much better than mine, and it's fine. But one of the things I heard from him that I feel like it's like you want people to creak the door open and want to hear more from somebody, right? I don't think we need to start, or our expectation should not be that somebody's first speech is they're laying out their first 100-day agenda. To me, one of the things that was so joyful about Tuesday was actually watching these candidates with their families, you know, and like their daughters and their husbands were crying and the new wife. I mean, it was just, and I was like, these people are normal, beautiful human beings who care about doing something for the people they're going to represent. And that, to me, it's just like the return of empathy and caring about why you want to be in office and why you want to govern. That, to me, is the starting point. And I'm saying something very obvious. It is extremely hard to be elected president. And I always would say this last summer when people were like, well, if there was a primary, somebody would emerge and they would definitely beat Trump. You're like, it is extremely hard to get in there. But that's the first, to me, that's sort of the first thing. Who do you want to creak the door open to? Who are you looking for? Who they're on a pod, like you want to hear more? Who do you want to hear more from? And I don't know.
I'm going to name some names. Like, I don't know what he's going to do, but if you looked at what Senator Ruben Gallegos said on your stage today, I mean, that man knows what he wants to do. He's a former Marine. He's lived through it, working class, got himself into Harvard, and he is ready for this fight. And if he wanted to do it, I mean, that's somebody who knows what the argument is. All right. Put it out there.
I think there's a lot of good people. I think it's like a very exciting time in the Democratic Party right now. Like, Wes Moore is exciting, J.B. Pritzker is exciting, Gavin Newsom's exciting, Gretchen Whitmer's exciting, Bashir is exciting. They're all exciting and different. I haven't named 1,000 people who I know are going to run.
Keep going. No.
You know.
I think we actually are, you know, if our democracy survives, we're at a great point if, you know, that's one small detail. But we have an incredible bench. We've got incredible Democrats, an incredible pool of talent. But I do think, you know, I think it was George W. Bush who complained about, you know, that he was like, people are asking me about the vision thing. and he couldn't do it, right? It was like, he's like, what is that? And I think that we as a party have fallen into that a little bit. And that's why your average Democratic stump speech sounds like a laundry list, right? And so if I were a 2028er, I would just sit down with a blank sheet of paper and I would say, why am I running?
Yep.
What's my vision? What motivates me to be in this job, and where do I want to take America? And I would write it, and then that's what I would say.
Yeah. You mentioned fighter. We need a fighter.
Yes.
That's another, everyone's in agreement. We all like fighters. What kind of fighter? Are we fighting the Republicans? Are we fighting Trump? Are we fighting on behalf of people? Are we fighting the oligarchy? Like
All of the above.
All right, we're fighting everyone.
All of the above, but it's not just fighting for fighting's sake. Sometimes I hear people just going out to give these speeches that go viral, but it doesn't actually amount to anything.
Yeah.
And so I want to see productive fighting, not just performative fighting. And I think we've seen, actually, I can't believe I'm praising the House and Senate Dems right now, but that's been productive fighting over the healthcare.
But after a lot of pushing. Remember,
sure.
they folded at the beginning of this year, and then everybody got mad, and now they're finally.
I'm not on their side. I'm not their defender, okay?
But I think voters want to see a backbone. They want leaders who believe in something. I mean, we were talking a lot about 2005 and 2006. I was working for Harry Reid also back then, and we had lost everything. We lost the presidency, the Senate, the House, and he just stood there and he said, "We're going to fight." And people weren't used to Democrats being strong, and we've looked so weak for so long that if we just give people a reason to stand up, to say, here are the things we're going to get done for you, they're going to turn out. They turned out on Tuesday. Let's turn out a year from now, and let's make sure we have a democracy in 3 years that we can actually get a new president and get some shit done. Woo!
All right, we're going to leave it there. Perfect place to leave it. Rebecca, Liz, Faiz, Jen, Adam, thank you so much. Thank you guys all for being here. This is great.